specializes. Okay, I'll start over then. Kathy Snead has been involved in photography since high school and specializes in floral, wildlife, and landscape photography. She has lived in Golden for over 40 years. Her website is kathysneadphotography.com, and she can be reached at sunstarimages@aol.com. I'm pleased to present Kathy Snead. Okay, Kathy, if you can
Yeah,
unmute.
I'm here. Thanks, Ellen.
Yeah.
I was coughing and I apologize for coughing in everybody's ear without muting myself first.
No, I didn't hear the coughing, so I think you did well. Yeah, so go ahead and share your screen and we can get going.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to talk about is how I got from the original photo to the finished product. And I'm going to use a lot of masks. And I just want to say, Ellen, are you going to be looking at the chat?
Yes.
Okay, good. Um, if I go too fast or if it gets confusing, just put something in the chat because there's going to be en masse, and some of them are complex mass where I'm using different tools. I thought I'd start out with explaining the new masking panel. I think the last time I did a little talk about masking, it was before Adobe changed the Lightroom masking panel and gave us some new tools. So I'm going to run through that first. And I apologize to anybody who knows all this, but some won't, maybe. And so I'm just going to run through it, and it'll make it easier to go through the photo. And I think it'll make it easier to understand. So I will share my screen. And what do you guys see? Do you see Lightroom? Have I lost you?
No, I just see you. I don't see a
Yeah.
shared
Yeah,
screen.
so
Okay, so maybe I go here.
so there you go.
There we go.
Okay. Okay, so I am screen sharing. I know that. Alrighty. So this is the finished product. But what I want to do is get over to this other panel. So I'm gonna have to get rid of our pictures there. And I'm just gonna go to the victim here, which is this photo, which is where I started. And there's no mass on this now. It's just the way it is when you bring it in. There's no history. So I just want to run through first where the masking panel is now. We used to have a linear gradient up here. Can you see my arrow on the right?
No.
Hello? Yes?
Hang on, Kathy. So what we are seeing is a narrow panel. Is that what you mean? Or
No, and I see it's greened. And you're not seeing my whole screen.
no, when you did the screen share, did you do the upper left hand? There's when you screen share, there's a whole bunch of choices for clicking on what
Yeah,
you
I
want.
see that. I see that.
Do the
So
one in
we
the upper
gotta-
left, because that one is the broadest.
Okay,
You know what I'm saying? Because if you just pick Lightroom, depending on how you're set up, it won't necessarily show all of your panels.
right. I've got a bunch of Lightroom classics available here.
So
I've got one.
do the one that says desktop in the upper left-hand corner.
My desktop shows you.
No, if you screen share, okay, so are you, hit screen share or
I
share
did.
screen? Okay. Is there a screen that comes up that says essentially, what do you want to share? And the upper left-hand one is desktop.
Yeah.
You
That's
see
the one
that?
that's,
There you go. You got it.
got it, okay. I was clicking on the wrong part of it. Okay, so we're gonna start with this one, and I'm gonna get these out of the way here, so we've got more room. So what I was saying was over here on the right, we used to have linear gradient and radial gradient. And now what we've got is this circle. And that brings up all your masks. You can mask for the subject, sky, background, so just for grins, subject here. What will Lightroom pick out? Pick out the subject. And for those who don't know, your overlay, you can change the colors. So over here, I can click in here and I can change the overlay color and I can change the opacity down below. And when you make it less, you can see behind the mask, which is sometimes very helpful. I keep it on blue for this picture because there's no blue in the picture, so we'll just use that. So here's another handy tip. If you don't know, I've just created a mask. And I'm going to go over here and click these three buttons. And I'm going to delete it because I don't want it yet. So also the masking panel brings up the ability to mask an object. And if you do that, click on it, and you bring your arrow over here, you can have a size of a circle that you can make bigger or smaller. And the trick here is to keep that plus in the middle on whatever object you're going to try to mask. So
It's
this
smaller.
here is for grins. And my computer is old and still slow. I haven't replaced it yet. So be patient with her. There you go. So you still get the flower that way too. And we'll delete that little one. And also the masking panel has a brush that's pretty self-explanatory, a linear gradient, which we'll use in this demonstration. And basically, this is, let's click on it, that'd help. This is a linear gradient. And when you pull it up, you're going to mask what's behind it. So when you want a solid mask, you pull away from the area that you want to mask. And this is your transition or feather area up here. Let's get rid of that one. So, and also a radial gradient to make circles and such, like on this, or the center of this flower. We'll do that. And again, let's just pull it down and you're going to get a circle, oval pattern, depending on what you want. And then you'll see you have a feather area. And one way to adjust the feather is by pulling out here and making this wider. But also, they always give you a couple ways. You can go down here and adjust the feather down here. So you can make it bigger or smaller, your graduated area. So I'll erase that. And while we're at it over here, these dots give you a lot of different things: to invert a mask, to duplicate a mask, to intersect a mask. And I'm not going to do that today. It gets pretty complicated, but if you're a logic freak like I am, you have to meet both conditions. So in this case, you'd have to be within the radial gradient, plus you'd have to have sky if you click sky. And obviously we have no sky here. Anyway, that 3 dots also gives you the ability to duplicate the mask. That's really helpful if you have eyeballs and you want to you correct one and you want to move that correction over or delete the mask. I don't ever use hide. Then you get out of there, you also have this little arrow, and this turns the mask off, turns the mask off. It's not doing it, but yeah, it did, and on. It's just my computer lags. Okay, so we'll delete that. And then the final thing, well, there's range, which is luminance range and color range. And we're going to do a color range. So I'll explain that there. And the luminous range is very similar. This is trying to create a new mask. We want to go away. Just ignore that. And then the other thing that you can get is select people. We're not going to have people here, obviously, but if we have time, I'm going to pull up another picture and use select people because it's really fun what you can do now with select people. Okay, so let's just delete that history. So a quick way is to go here. I'm over on the left and I'm clearing all we did there, which is very confusing. So we're going to clear all, and our history is cleared. And I don't know why it wants to. Oh, it thinks we have a brush. We're just going to ignore that one. And we're going to start on this flower. So turning the masking panel off, the first thing I do is I hit auto. Just for grins to see what Lightroom would do. And I plan to bring the exposure up, but I don't really like that. So we're just gonna get rid of that by going over to history and getting rid of it. Nope, clear it. Come on.
Kathy, you can also hit reset in the lower right-hand corner.
I know, but I wanted to focus on history on this one, but I absolutely agree with you. But reset puts reset up at the top and it doesn't delete your history, right? It keeps your history there. Just for example, Ellen, I think, if I'm correct, let's just make a mask with our subject. There it is. And we want to get rid of that. Now going over to history, we've got add subject over here on the left. We can hit reset. And it's still got, see, it has add subject and reset settings. And if you're fiddling around a lot and going back and forth, it gets confusing as to what you've actually done, what you haven't done. So that's why I like to clear, although it's hard to do because it's stubborn, the history. Okay, so first thing that I do with this flower is take out this guy down here on the left. And this, where I'm over on the right now, that little Band-Aid brings up 3 things. It brings up a content-aware fill, a healing, and a clone. And for this one, I'd use the healing right here. And I like that it doesn't have a feather. We don't need a feather. Opacity is at 100%. So we'll just get rid of this guy here. There. Sometimes it doesn't turn out wonderful. And you just like redo it. Go back and redo it. But that worked fine. So I'll close that. And then go to our basic panel. So flowers are supposed to be happy, I think, generally. So I'll warm this up just a little bit. And I'm going to bring the contrast up just a little. And this is affecting everything, not just the background or the flowers. I'm going to bring the highlights all the way down. Take the shadows all the way up. I'm going to really bump the whites up until, just so it doesn't affect this, the petal of the flowers, the detail there. That's probably enough. And then I'm going to do something I frequently do with flowers. And I'm going to bring the clarity down. And I also want to bring the clarity down on the background, just make it a little softer. So I'm bringing it down over there to about 20. Can always go back and do more. And that's it. And then I'm going to start into masking. Before I do, though, I want to crop this a little bit. Now, one thing to remember about cropping in Lightroom is even if you crop, like let's say a small crop, any adjustments you do or masks you do, as long as they extend beyond the side of your crop, the mask, they're going to affect what you cropped out because it never leaves. It's not like Photoshop where you do anything permanent to a image. So you can always change the crop, but I want to make this particular flower a little jauntier, just a little more attitude. So just stick it over there a little bit so that curves, so it's a little happy. Pull this down, pull this up so it's on that 1/3 line, maybe a little more up here. And that, just deal with that for now. Okay, so the first mask is going to be a background mask. And I want to work on this background because I think right now it's pretty dull. And this green here is distracting, the dark color. We've got a lot of things going on in this background. So I'm going to do our first mask. And I'm going to select the background. Okay, so it did a good job. So I'm going to turn the overlay off here on this button here. And I'm going to start by upping the exposure. And I want to point out, if you're with me here on the bottom right-hand corner, there's this amount. And that can be used when you have a preset. You bring in a preset and you want to change the amount, but it also can be used like after you get done playing with these other sliders, you decide, you know, that's just a little too much all over, or I need to bump that a little. And this amount here is a great slider to use to see if that'll do it, rather than going back through your individual sliders and starting to fiddle with them again. So I'm going to turn the exposure up on the background just a little bit, not much, just a little bit. And I am going to bring the shadows up a little bit. There's the hair here. I'm going to bring the blacks down. I'm not sure why I did that, but I'm kind of following along what I did before. And then I'm going to change the hue. So I'm going to go down to this slider here. Now you see this hue slider in the bottom right corner. There's two ways to use this. One is you can use it just the way it is, and it's going to take you over here, down here. You can have a lot of fun with this. Or let me reset this to 0. No, come on. Come on. 0 there. You can check use fine adjustment if you just want to make a little adjustment. And that's what I did here. And that kind of reins you in a little bit. And I just moved it over here a little bit. So let's see if we can get, before I did one more thing in here with this background. I went down to dehaze, and we're all familiar with the wonders of dehaze when we have fog. And it makes it, my computer's lagging, makes it more dramatic, but that's not what I want to do with this background. I want to actually add a little haze, adds a little softness to it. So not quite that much, but maybe about here. So that's where we are now, and I'm going to go back out of, that's our first mask, back out, and here's what we've done so far. No, okay. I don't know why it's doing that, but shouldn't. Okay, it's bringing up an earlier version, so I can't do that for you. But you can look at this one, and that's where we were. So it's made a lot of changes. Now I'm going to do another mask. And you see what's distracting here is this yellow. It draws your eye. And you don't really want your eye drawn to the background. You want it to complement a little flower here. So I'm going to do it. Go to the mask. And I'm going to create a new mask. And I'm going to do a radial gradient. I'm going to put it right over that yellow. Okay. Come on. So my computer lags. I'm going to get this right over where that yellow was. And I don't want that much feather, really. So you want to take the feather down a little bit. This is a little too big. Bring it in. So let's turn the overlay off and see where we are. Okay. A little bit smaller. Okay, let's see how that does with the overlay. And this is where it's helpful to go and make the overlay a little more transparent. It's not helping that much. But I think we still need to make it a little smaller here, a little bit. Okay, so that's our first step here. But you see what this is doing? It's taking in the flower. So we've got to get the flower out of this equation. And the way we do that is you go over to your mask and you subtract the subject. So it's done that. And you'll see when I put the overlay on, the overlay doesn't include this subject. And the way to tell, if you go over on the right, what you've done here is the radial gradient is your initial, and what you do moves up. Just like in Photoshop, you move up. And this has a little minus, so that's a subtract. And if I had added something, you'd have a little plus. So, okay, let's turn this off. And what I want to do is get rid of that yellow. So I'm going to turn the exposure down just a hair. because it's lighter there. And I'm going to take the highlights down just a little bit. But the key to this, maybe a little more. The key to this is to get the yellow out. And the way I'm going to do that is with the temperature. And I'm going to take the temperature down. There. And that's pretty good. Let me turn it off here so you guys can see what that did. So I turn it off. And I'm going to take it a minute to show up here. There's your yellow. I'll turn it back on. The yellow's gone. Okay, now this is the kind of fun one. This is nice. I thought it was nice. Maybe we need a little something here, but it's kind of boring in a way. It's a pretty flower. It's a nice smooth background. So this is where I thought, let's get creative. And I took a mask and I did a linear gradient on this. And I pulled it down from the top. So you want to, everything is going to be graduated, but above that red dot, it's going to be solid. So I pulled it down. And remember, that's the mask you're seeing there. The blue color I have. And I wanted less of a graduation. So I kind of pushed it together a little bit, smushed it. Yeah. And I think this is the way I ended up. It was crooked like this, but let's leave it like that for a minute. So you can see the flower is covered by this linear gradient. So if I was going to affect the background, the first thing I had to do was get that flower out of there. Same way, I subtracted the subject. So there we go. So that color is not what I put in there. That's the overlay. So I'm going to turn that overlay off. And what I did with this linear gradient is I wanted it to be lighter on the top. That just lifts it up. So I brought the exposure up pretty good. Again, this is lagging. There we go. A little bit less than that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's a little less than 50. Okay. And I brought the whites up just a little bit. Just a little bit, opened them up. And then I started to introduce color. So I went down to hue. And I turned off the fine adjustment. And I played with this to see what would happen. Again, this is lagging. So I'll go through it slower. And obviously we need more of a graduation down there at the bottom. It's probably not gonna, there we go. It's a little purple there. And then all the way over to 180. Chip turned blue. But it didn't. And this brings up a subject. Every time you fool with these, you get different things. So what I'm trying to do is to put the blue in here on the top. So let's leave that way. And I see I lowered the saturation, so maybe that was because of the purple. But we'll just lower that saturation down. And then I'm going to go to color. Have a color picker here. This is lagging. Okay. So we're going to go over a little more blue. There we go. Now it's getting someplace. And I'm playing with the saturation slider on the color picker here. That's not too bad. Well, let's do that. And I want to change the way this is blending here. So I'm going to go to the linear, back to the linear gradient. Over here on the mask, I'm going to extend this. So you have more of a graduated effect. Okay. So it's a little more purple. If you look at what I ended up with here. Let's get out of the mask. Okay. You look at my final. My final was a little more blue. So I'm going to try to work towards that. And I can tell you this took me on and off about 3 or 4 hours to figure this out when I was doing it. So going back into that mask again, because we don't have quite the right color. That right here. Okay. Then going down here to the spine adjustment. That may be the problem, that purple that's behind there. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. Saturation. And then I'm going to go to the blue and turn its saturation up. But this is what I ended up doing, trying to figure this out, how to make it kind of look like a sky when it wasn't a sky. So there. That's pretty similar to the original. Then, if you look at the original one, the one I did, it had a light here. So I have to put in the light. And also I see I had the graduation higher, but the thing about these masks is you keep going back to it as you work your way through it. So let's just keep going with the other things I'll do, and it's going to change the way this looks. And then I go back and tweak things. So in this, I'm going to create a mask for that light. So what I'm going to do first is a radial gradient. Now, there's a radial gradient down here. Remember, sunbeams expand as they go down. So that's okay. And then the next thing I'm going to do to that mask is I'm going to subtract a linear gradient from this side and this side. So I want it to, this is where I always get confused. And I don't want to confuse you guys by doing it the wrong way to begin with. I've got to subtract part of that. So we're gonna go this way. Nope, did I do it the wrong way? Yep, did it the wrong way. Let's get rid of that thing. Add, we'll subtract the linear gradient. Okay, this is the way we do it. And so I want to make it look like a sunbeam. And so the trick is, what I found out, is to make the top just a little bit smaller than the bottom, and to make this pretty, well, not much feathering here. You want a little bit. The sunbeam doesn't have a lot of feather. In my mind, it doesn't. And then we want to add another linear, or subtract another linear gradient, because you're removing mass from the radial gradient that we already did. Nope, I did it the wrong way, so I'm going to reverse it. Okay.
By the way, Kathy, this is absolutely awesome, and I'm thinking that that's why everybody is just so enjoying this, that nobody has asked any questions.
Well, I just want to make sure I'm not confusing everybody with this, mask here, mask there, subtract, add, divide.
No, I think you're doing a great job. I'm mesmerized.
Okay, okay, good. Thank you, Ellen. So we're going to make this a little smaller, less feathering. And we can always adjust this. But the one thing we've still got is we've got it on the flower. So we're going to also subtract. We're going to go to this mask. Yeah. And subtract. Are we on the right one? Yeah. Subtract the subject. Okay, so there's your mask. We've got the overlay on. And I don't like the way it's coming down here. That's the second linear gradient. So we'll just kind of make it, put in there a little more. And we could fold with this a little more, but I think you get the idea. I fold with it a lot to make it look like kind of a beam of light. And it's tricky with these radial gradients. But let's see what we can do now that we've got a mask. So I'll turn the overlay off. And I'm obviously going to turn the exposure up. Let's get this out of here. See what that does. Ooh, that's pretty dramatic. Okay, let's turn that down a little bit. Like that. And then I'm going to take the blacks up. I know that sounds contradictory. There's no blacks there, but actually kind of helps sometimes. So when I'm increasing exposure, I take the blacks up a little bit. And I'm going to take the temperature up quite a bit. So we'll wait for this to happen here. Okay, so I took the temperature up to 100, and then I went back to the hue. And obviously I'm trying to get this to look a little yellow, but not hugely yellow. So it's just, I don't have fine. Let me put fine on. For this one, I needed to use fine adjustment. Otherwise, it's just too hard to zero in what you want. So I ended up about here, which there is a difference. It's very slight. I increased the saturation a little bit. And then I went down and added yellow. There. So you can play with the saturation slider down here. And the slags. So that's obviously too much. Back, maybe that's good. Now, if I was going to perfect this, and you guys had like 3 hours, I would really at this point play with these gradients here to make it look more like a sunbeam. And it takes some time, you know, you want to like just make it look natural, not fakey. Right now it's a little too much. The white, I think, you look over here, it's a little too much. So that's where, if you go up to the top here, I'm in the bottom right-hand corner. Go up to the top of what you can do on this mask, and you've got a mount. And that's where this is helpful, because maybe you just want to turn it down a little bit and see what that does. Maybe you don't have to go back to those individual sliders. So you can play with that and just make it look a little bit more natural there. Okay. So now I started focusing on these, that dark green down there. And before we go there, I want to move this linear gradient up a little bit. So I'm going back to mask 3, which is the linear gradient. And we'll open that up and I'll go down to the linear gradient. And I'm just going to move this up a little bit. It's just too low, I think. And if it'll cooperate with me, I'm going to twist it around. There we go. I'm just going to make it more like that. Okay, so that's starting. When you're starting to get some, sometimes I like getting away from big picture and looking over here on the left. And it's just starting to get some interest, but not like we had before, like just something that complements this flower, in my opinion. So I'll close out this mask. And we're going to go to color range. And what I want to affect is this dark green. Now, what you have to realize, and you'll see this when I do it, it's going to affect underneath the blue too, because there's green underneath what I put there. So I'll go to create new mask, and I'll go to color range down here near the bottom. And it gives you a little eyedropper. And it's this dark green I want to affect. So I click on that. It's going to think about that. It's going to give me a mask. Now, just so you can see what it's doing up here at the top, let's change the mask color to red. And you'll be able to see, let's do it pretty dramatically. You see what it affects. But you can change that by going down here on the left to refine color range right here. So you can bring it down so it focuses more on what I was looking at down there. Or you can pick up a little bit of the other greens that are up here. So remember, you can always go back. So whatever corrections I make, you can go back to refine and play with it and see what it does. So I'll turn off the overlay. And I'll go down to the controls for this particular mask. And I'm going to turn the exposure up because I don't want these greens as dark. Turn the exposure up just a little bit. Not that much. Now about there we go. There. So you still got a little bit of that motion, but a lot of it's gone. I'm also going to take the blacks down just a little bit. Not that much. So that brings a little bit of it back in. And I'm going to take the temperature down. So I'm going to introduce more blue into those greens. Take the temperature down about 13. So that's what we end up with. Now let me turn that mask off so you can appreciate what it did. It'll lag here. There we go. So that's before that mask. This is after that. So what you can do is go back to refine now that you've made the changes. And just see what it'll do. Note where you had it. I have it at 30. So I'll just play with the slider a little bit. That affects more. I don't really like that as much, but you can, take it all the way up, see what happens. Or move it down more than I had it. Then there's a lag, so we gotta wait a minute. Yeah, that's kind of interesting, but I kind of like it where I had it at about 30. So there. So we'll leave that. So that's color range. Now, we haven't done the subject yet. So I'm going to create another mouse, select subject. Okay. And turn off the overlay. I'm just going to pop the subject a little bit. Add a little contrast. I took the temperature up. I warmed it up even more than the background. I took the temperature up a little bit. And I took the texture up to reintroduce a little more definition after I had taken the whole photo down with the clarity slider. So where's our texture? Down here. So we'll just move the texture up. And again, I'm looking at notes because I'm looking at what I did before, but like I said, it's an art. So that looks pretty good. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to improve the center of the flower. So I'm going to create new mask, do a radial gradient, and I'm going to enlarge this so I can see it better. I'm gonna place this radial gradient right over the middle of the flower. Um, huh, let's turn the overlay off. That's the overlay showing up there, and it's my computer lag problem. Okay, so I don't want that much feather, so I'm going to go to the slider on the right-hand side, and I'm going to bring the feather down. I don't really need that much, and I'm going to bring this in a little bit. The more mass I get, the slower Bertha here gets. Okay, that's close enough for this. So on this mask, I just want to get a little more definition, a little more contrast in there. Maybe change that yellow a little bit. So I am going to open up the whites a little bit. And I'm going to increase the contrast. Now, it's not going to make a big difference on this small, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to take the blacks down. I'm going to take the temperature up. Take the saturation up quite a bit. And I'm going to take the texture up. I always want the center of the flower to, it's in focus, to be stand out. You can, soft petals are nice. And you see here, I didn't do it on my final before. You see where my arrow is? That needs to be touched up. That needs a Band-Aid on it. But we're not going to do that because we're just going to proceed with these masks. So that'll work. Let's see. Let's turn that mask off. See if you can see any difference. Turn off. Takes a minute. And it's really subtle. I can see it a little bit on my machine. I don't know if you guys can see it. But usually when I go to the center of flowers, I notice more of the change than I notice on this one. And I don't know why that is. But at any rate,
Kathy,
yeah.
I can see a change when you're going back and forth. So you're doing it. So we can see it.
Thank you. Okay. So let's get out of that mask. Come on, bye-bye. Okay, it just doesn't want to. So we'll go to create new mask. And the next thing I'm going to do is going to affect the corners. So let's go back here to fit. And we're going to create new mask. And I'm going to do another radial gradient. And in Lightroom, let's get out of masking. I'll show you one other thing. In Lightroom, you can vignette your corners easily by going down to effects and going to highlight this amount and pulling this down. Watch my corners. I think I just went the wrong way. No, I didn't. Okay, see? Now you can, that's pretty dramatic. Obviously, you wouldn't want it there. But you can go here and you get the same thing in all your corners. And obviously I didn't want that with this photo because I didn't want a vignette where the light was. Plus, just doing it the same doesn't always work. And it's better to do each corner, I think. So I'm gonna turn this off. Turn off, come on. And then I'm gonna do masks for the corners. So all I do is radial gradients. And we'll pull a radial gradient across here. You can, vary the size depending on your corner. Go ahead. Come on. And usually I want more of a feather with a corner. So I'm going to move this feather up. And you just have to make sure the center is on your corner so it looks natural. So just go with that. Turn this off. And all I'm going to do here is lower the exposure just a little bit. Sometimes I lower the whites, but just lower the exposure just a little bit. And you can see it came down. That's probably a little bit too much. So I'm going to bring that back up. And maybe stretch this out a bit. And and bring this up just a little bit. There. So it's a little darker. So you see when it's off. You see on the left-hand side. And then when we turn it on, the darkness comes back. And then on the photo, I did that on this corner and this corner. I'm not going to do it. It's just the same as this. So what I would do if I was going to make this a final after doing the corners would be to start tweaking each mask to get it to where I thought I wanted it. And we're not going to do that, but I think you get the idea. Is there any questions on this? And one other thing, one thing I do that may be heresy, but here goes. At the end, if I got this to where I thought I wanted it, I go down to calibration. You can fool with all kinds of things down here. What's kind of fun is to pull the blue primary saturation over. I'm hoping you can see the difference. If I pull it over, we'll just take it up here. It gives it a little punch, usually. So let's see if I can go before and after. I'll go over to my history. I'm going to go back. So this was before the blue saturation. And probably with all the masks, it's not going to make as much of a difference. But sometimes it's very dramatic what the blue saturation will do. Okay, I think you could see the difference there. Now, the one thing I can't do in Lightroom, and I'm going to point out a flaw. When this flower had a green background, it also had a green halo. And I know of no way to take that halo off. Most people won't notice it, but some of us would. I do. And to get rid of this, I'd have to go into Photoshop. Other than that, no Photoshop. And I frequently do photos without Photoshop. So are there any questions on the flower?
I don't see any in the chat.
Have I put everybody to sleep?
No, I don't think so. Hey, but I do have a question for you, and now I don't remember what it's called, but I've never noticed it before until recently in the panel, and it's like a point color. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, there is, and I'll show you, there is that.
I mean, is it new or have I just not noticed it?
No, it's here, and I know what you mean. It's remove. We didn't do this. We didn't do our profile correction, Ellen. I forgot.
Oops.
That's something people I do all the time. You always do your profile, and that's changing this, you can see. And I just totally forgot when I was explaining it. And the manual is to get the defringe off, but watch. Let's increase, wait a minute, let's put that back. No, we don't want that dropper yet. Let's increase our size and let's go to manual. Come on. And go to defringe. Now, see how it works. Cannot set, see that? It's not working. So that's why I'm saying I'd have to go over in Photoshop, and really it'd be labor intensive. I just can't get the fringe off, and I think it's a product of changing. You had to have a mask, and you can't really refine the mask pixel by pixel in Lightroom like you could do in Photoshop, Ellen. And so the mask ended up with a little bit of a shadow of the prior background. I think that's what happened. That's my guess.
The point color that I was talking about is right above color mixer.
Hold on. Here? Tone curve?
No. Okay, we'll go to color mixer. See, because maybe you don't have, oh, okay, there it is.
Oh,
Look
I
under
haven't tried
there.
that yet. I haven't tried this yet.
Okay. I only just discovered it and I don't know how to use it. I was
Yeah,
hoping
let's
you
just
did.
see. Okay, let's see what we can do here. So, oh, we got too much pink. So we gotta really, let's make it bigger. Let's back out of there. And let's go over, come on, get rid of the eyedropper guy. 200%. Oh, we're going down to the pixels. Color mixer. Point color. Come on. And I still got the eyedropper. Okay. It's not. Come on. Give me an eyedropper. I think I've got it on it. It's not getting the green, Ellen. See that?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I've fiddled around with this. I haven't fiddled with this one. I did the other panel and couldn't get it to defringe. So I think I'd have to go over to Photoshop with this.
Sure.
Okay, so if there's no questions, I am going to just, what time is it? We've got a little time, I guess. Find a family photo here with more than one person. so folks can see. Okay, I can't get to my. How do I get to this? Here we go. No.
That was great, by the way. What you did with the flowers, it
Oh,
was
thanks, Ellen.
informational. Yeah.
It was quite a challenge. I'm trying to get rid of this Zoom panel up on top that's blocking me from getting to my Lightroom command.
You can just drag it someplace else if you want,
Oh,
or
yeah,
change
there
it.
it goes. There it goes. Okay. Library, find. We want to find family. We'll find a family picture. Sure to have more than one person.
Aw,
There's the kiddos. Okay, let's get several people. You don't want the wedding. That takes, I did this family wedding thing, and it takes forever for it to figure out all the people. I want like 3 people. There we go. 3 people, mom, dad, and kid. Okay. Okay. So that's the daughter, and that's the grandchild, Jane, for those of you who hear about Jane Rose all the time. So let's go
well,
to
Jane, this
develop.
must be an old photo then, because Jane's,
5.
yeah.
This is when she was 1. His first birthday. So we'll go to develop. And we'll go to our little mask. What is it doing? I must have masked this before, but we're going to create a new mask. And you see down here, it says select people. So I'll put this down. Okay. Move that up. Put this out of the way. So it's thinking. It's finding the people. Probably with anybody else's computer, this would be faster.
Well, I'm sure Zoom isn't helping either, so
No,
you're doing
this can-
great.
This Mac is 10 years old. So it's they call it a legacy computer at Apple. Okay, so see here, you've got down in the lower right, you've got your 3 people, person 1. And if I picked her, so that's who we're dealing with. And then it'll detect the features. This is what is really cool. So you can pick facial skin and work on it. You can pick body skin. Look at that. Now it did miss this, like it's confused. So you'd have to, this being right next to the baby, it missed my daughter's portion of her arm. So you'd have to brush that in and add it to that mouse. But this saves so much time. Eyebrows. Yeah, she's looking down, so we're not going to be able to use the eye stuff. But lips, you don't have to brush anymore. And then if you go back, add people. Let's say if you want to work on the guy, pick him. And it's going to detect his features. Come on, continue. So it'll detect the features. I don't care how many people you have. It's going to go through all of them. It'll just take longer with more people. And we have to turn person 1 off. That's what's happening here. So we have to get rid of her because now it's looking at both of them. But you can zero in on one person. You can zero in on the eyebrows of everybody, all their eyes. It's really totally fun. The only thing it has problems with, I've found, is when an adult is sitting with a child on their lap. Then it gets really confused, and you have to do that manually. So that's it, Ellen. That's my presentation on masking.
That was great. I hope everybody else got a lot out of that because you did, you did a really nice job with that, Kathy.
Thank you, Ellen.
You bet. Had some chat comments more than no questions, but just people saying, Chris said that was a great learning experience. Well done. And Kathy Allen Shin said great experience. And Lindsay said thank you and that she learned a lot. So yeah, you got some great feedback here.
Oh, good. Well, it's amazing what technology can do now. And that's the Lightroom, they just, a good old Adobe, they just keep making it better and better.
Absolutely. Okay, well,
So over to you.
if we have no questions, then I think we're good.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. That was great.